we have these crossroads. And you know, either way you choose, your life is going to be different.
The universe doesn't exist, but God thinks it does.
We have to stop consuming our culture. We have to create culture.
Stupidity has a definite evolutionary function. I am all for abolishing stupidity, but before it goes, we should pay tribute to it.
Hello and welcome to the Nonsense Bazaar. We're your hosts, I'm Sequoia Kennedy.
And I'm Willow Truman, perhaps.
Perhaps? Why do you say that?
Just for fun.
Okay.
This is the United States, perhaps.
You can't do this to me.
You're too sleep deprived.
I am so sleep deprived. I was playing Dog Dad last night.
Quick, who's the vice president?
I don't know.
Oh my god. It's bad.
No, I know it's the cop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like her.
Nah.
No one ever thinks about the vice president. I'm going to cut the vice president talk.
Yeah. I think the speech.
I'm embarrassed by actually not remembering Kamala Harris.
I like when you can tell that she's taken Xanax, but like is giving speeches anyway.
Are you about to try and say something funny to make me have to keep the vice president talking? That's
just what she's famous for to me, is being visibly under the influence of Xanax.
While putting many, many people in prison.
Well, yes. Yeah. At the same time. Talented.
I don't like cops.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to start over because that perhaps caught me off guard. You can say it again if you want, but hello and welcome to the Nonsense Bazaar. We're your hosts. I'm Sequoia Kennedy.
And I'm Kamala Harris. No, I will love Truman.
Son of a bitch.
You'll never forget again.
I never will. Willow, what if I told you that everything you thought you knew about history was a lie? Rudolph too? Fucking lie. Little Jeffrey? More like Big Fat Lion Jeff.
I would entertain it.
Printing press? No one knows how to read.
Never happened.
Never happened. The whole accepted story of the development of civilization, the whole thing, lies. All of it. Why? Because the elites don't want you to believe in yourself.
You know, this makes sense to me.
You gotta believe in yourself, in the indomitable human spirit, and accept that we don't know how to make shit look fancy anymore, and so there must have been a giant globe-spanning, stone-carving, free energy-producing super civilization that has been erased from history.
And that's the real truth.
That's the real truth.
Are keeping from us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
Do you know how shit used to look fancy?
Shit used to look a lot fancy. Now we just have strip malls everywhere.
Yeah. Do you think, like, if we made fancy shit back then, why can't we do it now?
Because it's cheaper not to?
All they had back then was horse and buggies.
Right.
How could it possibly be cheaper? Yeah, basically that. There used to be fancy shit again. There used to be fancy shit. Now there ain't. Ergo, welcome to Tartaria.
God, this one is so confusing to me. I'm really hoping that you can try to make sense of it.
I will. All right. No, I think I will be able to make it make sense. Like, it's not going to make sense, but I'll make how it doesn't make sense.
Okay. I have no idea what Tartaria is. Is it a place? Is it a people's?
It's a state of mind.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's a state of mind.
It's a vibe.
It's definitely a vibe. That's definitely a vibe. That's sort of the only thing it is, actually. In like real life, Tartaria is a vibe. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a vibe same way CIA is a vibe. Like, it's not a vibe I'd groove to.
Different vibe.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a pretty boring vibe. That's why I've never really gotten into it.
So, yeah, that's the fucking thing. You don't really know anything about Tartaria, right?
No.
So, Tartaria, the conspiracy theory of Tartaria, it's about a globe-spanning super civilization called Tartary or Grand Tartary or Tartaria that once existed. They built a lot of really fancy buildings out of stone that all sort of look similar. And that is proof that there was this civilization. There was a great catastrophe, and the survivors sort of hijacked the architecture, said they built it, and then hid the truth.
Okay, so like the Great Reset already happened?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah. That's they use that term, a reset, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to stay away from like looking at conspiracy theories in my research.
I'm trying to stay away. It's so hard, though.
So this is, I say it's a conspiracy theory, but there's lowercase conspiracy theory and like capital C, capital T conspiracy theory, right? Lowercase conspiracy theory is bad for your mental health. That's when like you're either actually losing your mind or you've actually found something. But either way, lowercase conspiracy theory is your own conspiracy theories.
Okay.
I'm making these definitions up. That shit's not good for you, but capital C, capital T conspiracy theory, that shit's good, wholesome fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like lowercase conspiracy theory is when you're building your own corkboard.
Dangerous.
Yes. Capital C, capital T conspiracy theory is when you're looking at someone else's.
Mm-hmm. No attachment to it.
It's good, clean fun.
Observing.
Yeah. Whoa, look at that.
Yep.
And like, because there's usually some threads of actually weird or interesting history one way or another, right? Mm-hmm. Tartaria is like someone saying, hey, yo, come over and look at my corkboard. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And you go over there and instead of a corkboard, it's just a little kitty cat playing with a ball of yarn.
Is that what it is?
He's all tangled up and shit. He's trying to look all ferocious, the little shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Tartaria is to conspiracy theories.
Just a little kitten.
Just a little kitten playing with a ball of yarn. Oh. That's kind of what I thought. I never expected to be doing an episode on Tartaria because I didn't think it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. The belief in Tartaria, like I know Tartaria is not real, but that people actually fucking believed in it. I didn't think people bought it. And to be honest, I was going to try and be like, I tried to write this episode charitably.
Yes.
From a place of love and empathy and fucking humility, right? But I was like halfway through and something wasn't right. I wasn't being true to myself.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest shit I have ever found in my entire fucking life. It's shockingly stupid. There's no two ways around it. I've never seen a conspiracy theory like Tartaria. It is shockingly stupid. It is fascinating in how stupid it is.
Do you say that because of the mud flood thing?
The mud flood are the least of our concerns here.
Yeah, because I think that's not stupid.
That's not stupid.
Yeah, that's pretty...
It's very stupid, actually. It's pretty stupid.
Nah, it's cool.
We'll learn about how stupid the mud flood is. I'm like...
You wouldn't like it if it happened to you.
And the thing is... No, I'd hate it, but how does a flood happen all the... No, it's so dumb. Don't even.
Have there been mud floods in history?
Not like this. We'll get to the mud floods. Okay. Don't worry.
I'm excited.
At this point, though, there's definitely there's some fuckers that believe this shit. And their numbers seem incredibly to be growing with each passing day. Search interest for Tartaria is currently at an all-time high. It only began really in 2019. There are YouTube channels that do nothing but pump out Tartaria videos that have tens of thousands of subscribers and shit, which isn't huge, right?
Yeah, but big enough.
But just wait until you hear about this shit. It's big enough, man. Like it's big on TikTok. It's a TikTok thing. And I don't know. It's mind-blowing. People believe this shit. Believe what, you might ask? Well, in Grand Tartaria, the globe-spanning super civilization that the elites don't want you to know about. Thus, they repurposed the Tartarians' buildings, invented history, and paid off the legions of so-called experts to tell you you're stupid for just asking questions. Questions like, if we built stuff fancy before, why don't we build stuff fancy now? And if the Eiffel Tower is so great, why didn't we build another one? Obviously, the answer is that, yes. The answer is that a globe-spanning super civilization that knew the secrets to free energy built them, were wiped out in a global mud flood, and the elites wiped away any trace of them, except some of the buildings they repurposed, but not the buildings at the sites of the world's fairs, which are actually elaborate psyops to destroy Tartarian remnants.
Oh, but of course.
Yeah, it really makes you think. You know, but like we've heard the lost civilization narrative before, right? Mm-hmm. You know, never as extreme as like these are their buildings and shit, but like the thing that makes Tartaria different from Atlantis or Lemuria, Mu, or fucking whatever, pick one. You know, when did Atlantis happen?
I don't know, like forever ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, fucking forever ago, right? Like a long, Lemuria.
Like a little bit less forever ago.
Exactly, but still way the fuck.
Right.
Yeah. But whence did Grand Tartaria fall?
Pretty recently.
Between 1750 and 1850.
Yeah, that's really recent.
Yeah. A globe-spanning super civilization with access to free energy and magical healing powers was wiped away in a mud flood, and the only evidence left of them is buildings that, one, kind of look like each other on different continents, and two, look all fancy and shit.
Did people have superpowers in Tartaria?
I don't know. It's very amorphous.
Got it.
It shifts with whatever thing it needs to push, and it has become a like total encompassing conspiracy theory. In terms of like the mechanics of stories and like how memes take hold and stuff, this is one that's fucking fascinating, dude. This shit is crazy from that perspective.
Okay.
Like that's the other thing. Like this shit's wild,
yeah,
dog.
So basically, to sum it up for my own understanding,
Yeah.
it's this idea that there was this global empire of Tartaria.
Yes. It used to be labeled as Tartary on maps from the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big old middle piece of Eurasia that was just labeled as Tartary.
Right.
Or Grand Tartary, right? And we'll talk about that
and
very
up
soon.
Until it operated up until perhaps even the 19th century.
Yes.
When then something happened, the mud flood.
Mud flood, perhaps the elites. The mud flood's pretty accepted. Mm-hmm. Because there's
Something
evidence
happened.
for that all over the place. There's evidence for the mud flood all around you all the time.
Right, but then the narrative changed, the empire fell, and all evidence of it was erased, and the elites who took over took credit for all of the leftover things.
Yeah.
The last empire.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got kind of a Dark City vibe. Mm-hmm. But like with the color palette I always think of with Tartaria is like yellows and greens and shit and like some reds, you know, one of those color palettes.
Yeah.
It's a very sunny place to me in my head, Tartaria. These majestic stone buildings and columns, and you know how all those buildings have like those like metal pieces sticking out the top of them?
Yeah.
Obviously that was to collect the free energy.
How they made such beautiful buildings.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, get out your little Bob the Builder hats, pour yourself a strong drink, roll a fat joint. You will need it. And we're going to talk about architecture and time, fake ass bullshit time. But first, we got to pull a tarot card.
Excellent.
It did really, from like a mimetic kind of technical standpoint, dude, it has some interesting mechanics built into it that really allow it to like sort of subsume other theories and provide justifications for other theories like very easily, but it has the limitation of being so what the fuck that almost seems to be a trade-off in the mechanics of how it works. I don't know, but I got ideas on what Tartaria actually is and what it means. I think they're good ideas. King of Cups.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give an absolutely to the tarot deck on that one.
And then we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the King of Cups at the end, the fiery, active part of water, which is arts, emotion, feeling, shit like that. Yeah, I can see it. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Grand Tartaria.
Once upon a time, there was a highly advanced civilization today known as Great Tartaria. She was disappeared from our history books less than a century ago. Its vestiges are still everywhere. The civilization dominated technologies more advanced than the present ones. Its geopolymer concrete was eternal and grew stronger over time. Its gigantic iron and glass structures, surmounted by domes and metal needles, were present on every continent. Associated with Mercury, they distributed free atmospheric energy to everyone. Its towers and railway stations are still in operation. Unfortunately, the technology of free energy from the aether was destroyed and imprisoned, and old technology reintroduced. Like cables and wires to distribute energy and make handsome profits. The story goes that Nikola Tesla had discovered the technology to connect to the aether and provide unlimited power to everyone, anywhere, at any time. You could travel by boat, car, or plane for free by simply accessing nature's magnetical energy that is omnipresent. And we have not been allowed this free energy due to our capitalizing system of greed and domination by those in power even to this day. So for over 100 years, we have been denied a benevolent system of free energy to all. Mr. Tesla, if he even existed, was a front man to hide the Tartarian free energy devices you will see detailed extensively in this book.
And that book is The One World Tartarians, the greatest civilization ever to be erased from history, by James W. Lee. It's like 300 pages.
I'm speechless.
It's fucking... Yes.
Wow.
Yep. So that book is, I found that online just Googling it. Of course, there's a 300-page book. I mean, a lot of it's pictures, you know?
Yeah.
But one book does not make a complete and total mindfuck, right? That's just some guy. That's just a book. You can't see how many people have read the book. You can't see subscriber counts and shit.
Right.
However, any search for Tartaria on TikTok especially.
Oh, BitChute.
BitChute. Oh yeah. I mean, YouTube, dude, they got people. This is a Reddit post sorted by top. This is a woman on TikTok explaining Tartaria.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So the CIA actually came out and admitted that they erased and rewrote some of our history. And that history is of the Tartarian Empire. So Tartaria was thought to be a global and technologically advanced civilization that existed way before the 1800s up until the 1900s, where it was wiped out by a Great Reset, aka the Mud Flood. Then it was completely erased from the history books and rewritten in order to hide us from the truth. Now I know this sounds crazy and you're probably already running to the comments to call me some name, but I brought the receipts. Comes directly from the CIA's website. It was released in 1957.
Oh, boy.
The Central Committee of the Communist Party issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, was to be falsified. I don't know if I'm saying Tartar right. And why would Tartaria be depicted in old world maps if it wasn't a thing? And Putin actually wants to release the real history of Tartaria. Now take a look at some of these buildings. We were told that these were built by people that rode in horse and buggies. We're expected to believe that they built things like this with a hammer and a chisel.
It's a fancy church.
Even if scaffolding was a thing.
Beautiful window.
The precision. The accuracy.
Cathedral walls.
These people were way more advanced than we give them credit for. Like, these
Yes,
buildings
they
are
were.
said to have been built in
Yes.
the 1800s.
Just they were.
And just look at some of these inventions that they had. The math ain't mathin'.
All these crazy gizmos that did like funny things that didn't actually do anything.
Now, this civilization was
Yeah.
thought to have been wiped out by a huge flood that buried it in feet of mud, which was also known as the Mud Flood. And that is why we see so many buildings that look like they have just been buried, or that have basement windows and doors. And this would be kind of a stretch if they didn't dig up the buildings and find that they were in fact buried.
That's the other big evidence. Pictures of excavated cities showing tunnels and stuff.
That fact alone just blows my mind because I see buildings like that all the time, and now I wonder how far down they actually go. And it also makes me wonder if all of the underground tunnels have something to do with this buried empire. And I know you're probably wondering, like, why the heck would they hide this from us? But it was thought that Tartarians actually knew how to harvest free energy from the Earth's magnetic field, or ether. The pillars are thought to be energy conductors.
Okay.
I think, are some of them lightning rods? I think they might be lightning rods.
Also
I don't know.
thought to be the reason why a lot of them have gold tops.
Yeah.
Now, I know that part is just a theory, but think about it. Electricity is all around us. What do you think lightning is? What do you think static electricity is? There is definitely a better way to harness energy besides slaving over fossil fuels. We are living in the Lorax. Now, on that note, I'm going to leave you with one more thought. Who are these doors built for?
Big
Giants.
doors, temple. Yeah. Yep.
I wasn't even looking at the screen, but I knew it was a picture of some big ass doors.
Yeah, it's giants. It's
Giants. Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how the giants fit in. To be perfectly honest, I don't. I didn't get that. I went really deep, but I didn't get that deep, you know? It's just some things need cutting, and this time it's giants. Just they didn't make the cut.
No time for the giants this time.
So that post has, I don't know how many fucking comments. It's got a couple hundred, looks like 150, 452 upvotes. It was like some ways down on the sorted by top of r/Tartaria.
Why would they make the maps if they weren't true?
I mean, it's a childlike sense of logic, but at least it's a human sense of logic I'm familiar with. Yeah. And
it's like, just take a second.
Take a fucking goddamn second.
And just like think about the question.
Just think about what the fuck you're saying right now. But I don't even care because, and here's why I don't care about making fun of these fucking people. And if you're a Tartarian, listen to this. Fuck you. I don't care. The biggest argument that your shit lies on is like being salty because you think people are calling you stupid. It's this like self-congratulating, like, ha ha ha, we are the ones asking questions. It's like,
Sequoia, this is the true history.
There's nothing here. This script is so disorganized because there's nothing fucking here.
The truth that's right in front of your eyes.
Tartaria is a mirage. There's no...
But you still see it.
There's no history of Tartaria. I didn't know how to organize this fucking thing. I didn't know how to structure this script. It beat the hell out of me because there's nothing here. It's madness. All right, so there's 39,000 members of r/Tartaria.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, are there any other Tartarian? Yeah, there's a couple other Tartarian subs too. Tartarian Architecture has 11.8 thousand members. Tartarian Truths only has 264. Tartaria Mudflood 782. You know, some of the YouTube channels we'll be looking at have like a lot more subscribers than that, and then there's like the dumb fuck side of conspiracy theory that like is the more popular one.
Mm-hmm.
It's showing up on like Sam Tripoli and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's spreading. It's impossibly gaining traction. We can't attribute Tartaria to one person or group definitively. It is, like its adherents, a product of the internet. And I'll agree with them on this point. The degradation of literacy and ability to process information is another big factor in where it comes from. And if you're a Tartarian entertainer, if you're sipping that tartar sauce, look, I watched so many of the recommended videos on this stuff, and they all stress that it's just about asking questions. So please just, even though I'm going to make fun of you, stick with me here, because I think I have some definitive pieces of counter evidence that you'll like, hopefully, that I'll get to later. That's not a bit. I actually have something at least as strong, if not much more, in the same ways to falsify it. And it's not something some egg-headed expert said, but something you can go check out for yourself. But that's later. First, let's look at the term Tartary and the lamestream historical narrative surrounding why there are, in fact, European maps from the Middle Ages and Enlightenment period that label the vastness of Central Eurasia as Tartary, or sometimes Great Tartary. This is from the Old World Tartarians again. Willow, if you please.
The Old World Order were the benevolent Tartarians. The White Lodge Tartarians. One of their only primary directives was that what you take back from nature, you give back more. Their nature nurtures was based on Isis, the moon goddess, who created and provided for all. One can only conclude, given the extremely similar structures we see throughout the world, that all lived in common language and were all related in common thought, intention, and design. They had healing centers for animals.
Yes, they did.
They had passive relations with all life because they had advanced their consciousness to emanate love and benevolence to all. Their flag was of a griffin, which was a real animal. The griffin is part human, part eagle, part lion, and part androgynous bull. It appears from their maps and legends that there also existed centaurs, flying turtles, and unicorns.
Healing centers for animals. They got Poke Centers, dude. That's what a Poke Center is.
Whoa.
Like, you bring your Pokemon in, they put the Pokeballs on the thing, and they have this, like,
Healing
Tesla coil looking thing, and it heals them up. That's where that comes from. Dog, you're seeing Poke Centers in the castles.
So that's the old world order?
That's Tartaria. That's the old world order, as opposed to the New World Order.
Right.
Right. That was when the Tartarians were in charge.
Bring
and
the flying turtles back.
Dude, flying turtles, centaurs, unicorns, Poke Centers. That's fun. I can get down with that. I would like to point out, though, that is on the page after the Sovereign Citizen, Illuminati, Bloodlines, Aryan Nazi shit starts.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Which is page 3 of 300, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, which I do have to include a bit of, so it's not like I'm calling a motherfucker a Nazi for no reason.
Yes.
Willow, if you please.
The New World Order also rewrote history during the revision of history during the epic reset between the mid-1800s until the 1930s, when Kurt Hofstadter David Rockefeller, along with the Rothschilds, Red Shield, began the many stories of the Big Bang, evolution, and the history of religious myth and lore. The Kurt Hofstadter were/are the Ashkenazi Jewish people.
Oh, no. Say it how he spelt it.
The Ashkenazi. Okay. The Ashkenazi Jewish people who were conscripted by the Vatican to be allowed to make all the money and all the fame. Shit. Nobody told me. I guess I'm not an Ashkenazi.
You're not a Kurt Hofstadter?
No. As long as the Vatican Jesuits, of course, and 13 satanic bloodlines would be provided with information and power.
Yes. So, you see. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
It's
all right.
Bloodlines.
No more Nazi shit, though. I didn't bring any more of that in. This has enough.
I found one website saying that the Tartaria and the Tartars is a script currently being run on the alternative media platform that's been taken over by the Russian mind to convince the world that Russia is the source
We'll
of
get there.
greatness.
We'll get there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a paranoid way to describe what's actually going on.
It's not entirely untrue.
It's pretty
I don't know how it connects to Tartaria, but...
I think that means script as in like a social program or something.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So, which is interesting. We'll get there in a second, because there is a old language script that was found in Tartaria, but it's a different Tartaria. Don't worry, but we'll get there. Some old maps and encyclopedias did, in fact, have a flag for a place called Tartary that had a griffin. So anywhere there's this griffin flag with like a yellow background and a black griffin or some other colors, that's been taken by some Tartarian believers to be the flag of Tartary. And yet there is a crest in there in like an encyclopedia.
Okay, so it is a real place, or it was a real place?
Sort of.
Okay.
So it used to be on maps, and sometimes they use the griffin as the flag. But also, people make shit up, especially back then. And I learned this like researching like old magic shit, old grimoires and stuff. Fucking like 3 Books of Occult Philosophy does this a lot, which is like like putting words in someone's mouth. Mm-hmm. Like people will just say like, oh, blah, 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 said Plato. And it's like, Plato didn't say that. You just thought that was something it sounded like Plato probably would say. But also people didn't have a problem with that at the time.
Right.
People just made shit up. Looking at like the King Arthur myth, like that started from some dude just making shit up because it served the thing he was trying to do with that piece of writing, right? Not only would people just write something that they thought sounded like something like someone else would say, sometimes they'd even just say they were someone else. And this was just fine to do for a bit because writing in books were new, right?
Yeah, who's going to prove otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like not worth fucking caring about, right? People make shit up. But this existence of Tartary or Tartary on the maps is one of the main selling points on the Tartaria theory. Old maps label this big swath of land in central Eurasia Tartary, or Grand Tartary, as though it were an empire. But if it was, why don't we know anything about it, and where did it go? Well, the term Tartary was a term predominantly used in medieval and early European sources to refer to the vast and vaguely undefined areas of Central Asia, North Asia, and sometimes Eastern Europe, which was inhabited by a bunch of different peoples from, didn't think of themselves as one people at all, but Europeans collectively called them Tartars or Tatars. It was not one culture. It was like 1,000 fragmented cultures or individual small tribes. But Europeans didn't know how to deal with that shit. They had their kings. They had their fucking feudalism. They had their borders. So they just labeled that part of the world as though it were one thing. It's kind of just like a racist, like, they're all the same. The term Tartary first emerged in medieval Europe, stemming from the Latin Tartarus, which originally referred to the underworld in Roman mythology. And the association with the East and the peoples living there began after the Mongol invasions of Europe in the 13th century. The Mongols and later various Turkic Mongolic tribes of Central Asia were referred to as Tartars, a term likely derived from Tatar, the name of one of the Mongol tribes, but conflated with the menacing connotations of Tartarus. Right,
because it's the underworld, right?
They literally did the conspiracy theory thing where they like, that sounds like that. Yeah. And saw a whole bunch of shit they didn't understand, slapped it with a label. Yeah. Throughout its use, Tartary referred to a large and ill-defined region. It generally denoted the vast steppes of Central Asia, extending to Siberia, and sometimes included parts of Eastern Europe where Tatar groups had settled. But the exact boundaries and just what is a Tartary varied among different European writers and mapmakers, reflecting limited and second-hand knowledge of these distant alien lands.
Right.
The accounts of Tartary were often laced with Orientalist perceptions. The region and its inhabitants were depicted as exotic, mysterious, and at times menacing. This was partly due to genuine ignorance and the European tendency to mythologize the East, and partly due to the actual threat posed by the Mongol Empire, and later by various Tatar and Turkic groups to European borders, right? So tales of Tartary were filled with fanciful and exaggerated descriptions of its people, customs, and landscapes.
Right.
It was fucking fairyland, right? So, more accurately, it was the culture in every fucking fantasy novel ever written that lives on the other side of the mountain range that denotes the area where the plot is allowed to occur. That's a thing in like every fucking fantasy book. Tartary.
It's the old world order.
There was no order in Tartary. The old world order were the people making the maps. As the political landscape of Central and North Asia changed over the centuries, so did the associations with the term Tartary. It came to be associated with not with a single political entity, but rather with various khanates, tribes, and nomadic groups. After the Mongol Empire declined, the term continued to be used to describe the areas under control of its successors, various peoples, and it became less and less about precise political geography and more about a broad cultural and ethnic region. But the late 18th and 19th centuries, as the geographical knowledge increased and Orientalist fantasies were gradually dispelled, the use of Tartary began to diminish also. More accurate terms and understandings of the peoples and regions of Central and North Asia replaced the vague and exotic notions of Grand Tartary. Tartary was just some shit Europeans said to label maps with. The wild seas, a place of wonder, and there be dragons and shit. And fuck it, it still is. But we have satellites now, so we place our undiscovered country in the past rather than spatially. And there's a whole lot of strong-chinned people that say they'll take us back in time if you vote for them. And they talk real loud, too. Means they're strong and you can trust them. We need to go to space. It's the only way through. We need undiscovered country, or
we're on our way,
or we will, as a species, lose our fucking minds. It's very important. Now, okay, we got all that gay ass history out of the way.
Yeah, thank God. Those were boring.
Yeah,
I understand though.
Yeah.
I get what it is.
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. But what if actually Tartaria was a globe-spanning super civilization pulling electricity out of the earth, Tesla coils and shit? Probably had fucking med beds too.
Yes.
The origins of where this new legend came from are as nebulous as the content, but it appears to have coalesced just around the various threads of alternate history, conspiracy theories, sovereign citizen shit, all that. You know the stuff. The conspiracies. Some of the intellectual precursors are like the missing time hypothesis, Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology, which we'll get to later, and obviously the ideas of lost civilizations and cities. Now, I will say that I am sure that there have been lost civilizations and cultures. I don't think any are as spectacular as we'd like them to be, but I'm sure there's pieces to the story of history that we are yet to learn, right? So I'm not one of those fucking assholes. Anyway, I jumped on Google Trends and I found this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty popular right now.
It is as popular as it has ever been. Yeah. So there's like a couple little tiny spikes between 2004 and 2009, but then around 2018 to 2019, something happens. And then after 2021, shit goes fucking haywire on this exponential curve. I mean, it looks like the goddamn stock market. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We are currently at the height of Googling up the word Tartaria.
Peak Tartaria.
We are at peak Tartaria. For now, tomorrow it'll be more. The train to Tartaria has just left the station.
Oh boy.
So the trends for the search term Tartarian Empire showed the biggest spike in 2004, right? And so I hopped on Google and I set the dates to between 2004 and 2006, and I checked out these search terms just to see like, well, what did show up in 2004, right? Fuck all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all I found were these tablets found in the Romanian town of Tartaria, except it has those little squiggles over letters to make you pronounce them how I don't know how to. Yeah, this is a different Tartaria. This town. This is a Romanian town of 5,000. It looks like it may be a precursor to some other language from that region.
Okay.
Like an ancient language. It's some marks in a rock.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is cool. It was a cool historical discovery. Yeah. It's fucking sweet. They found these fucking tablets I've never found any fucking tablets with writing in them. That's cool as hell.
Rock book.
So I went on Wikipedia to the article on Tartary, the actual place, which now redirects to the Tartarian Empire conspiracy theory. And I started combing through the edit history. I went crazy for Tartaria.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing of note from 2003 onwards. But then it gets spicy in 2019. I found a choice edit. This was appended to the very beginning of the Wikipedia article, and in all caps, no less. Copied exactly from how it's written. It was also upvoted a whole fucking bunch, which is weird, like coming in at like plus 94.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is like one of the first. This is old Tartaria.
Delightful.
So Willow, if you please.
Those of you at Wikipedia.
All caps, by the way.
Do the research yourself. The proof is in the evidence. The Tartary Empire was the largest empire in the history of the world. They were undefeated in battle and were not liked by those in power in other countries. Research the orphan trains, the mud flood, empty cities, 3 years of winter because the sun could not shine through the nuclear winter of 1816 through 1819. The powers that be destroyed them and wiped them from the face of the earth. The book burnings were to hide the evidence they existed. Our calendars had 1,000 years added to them. Research it. They pulled electricity out of the atmosphere and was free for everyone. Don't take my word for it. Do the research-o. Why do you think you've never heard of the worldwide mud flood that covered the northern half of the globe with 30 to 40 feet of mud? Somebody had nuclear back then, and that's how they were able to get rid of all Tartarians.
That's some shit. This is out of fucking nowhere on Wikipedia.
I love it. The nuclear winter of 1816. I'm not familiar.
I'm not either. I've never heard of the mud flood before this. So going on Reddit, I found some poor traveler looking for more information, and thus they were directed with many upvotes to this.
Oh, that's true.
What's true? What is true? What is possibly true about that?
The nuclear winter thing.
It's not nuclear though.
No,
it's a volcano.
Yeah.
1800 and froze to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a nuclear.
That's what it's called, though.
Only Tartarians call it a nuclear winter. Dog, that was a volcano.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Who calls it a nuclear winter?
Because that's what it's called.
Do geologists call it a nuclear winter? I don't think geologists call it. Do meteorologists call it that? I think conspiracy theorists call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because volcanoes don't produce radioactivity.
They sure don't.
Yeah, so a scientist wouldn't call it a nuclear winter. Conspiracy theorist would, though. Anyway, this one YouTube channel was presented as the place to go for the straight dope. I'm going to play it. Listen to what this guy has to say. I mean, something that drives someone...
Lucius something or other?
Yeah, Lucius Aurelius or whatever, Aurelian. I mean, like something that drives someone to make like that sort of edit to Wikipedia out of nowhere must have a compelling narrative around it, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't like it. I don't mean like in a scholarly sense, but in the sense of, you know, conspiracy theory evidence.
Don't take my word for it. Do the research.
Yeah. Compelling pieces of string on a fancy corkboard. There has to be some reason why Tartaria is so hot right now. This feller, Lucius Aurelian, he's got 24.9 subscribers, 204 videos. He has a premium channel. His videos are getting, you know, Tartaria's greatest technology gets 14,000 views. It's pretty good for his shit. That's his, let's see. Yeah, you know, greatest old world castles in the land. That's 30,000, you know, but that's not explicitly referencing Tartaria in the name. Minneapolis, Tartaria's city of lakes, 11,000. So it's around that level, this guy. Let's see. Fucking A, there's so many. I'm just...
Further eras, and that's where we get the 5 eras from, as the Golden Age can break down into 3 distinct eras based on our observations. During that time, amazing structures were possible, things beyond our wildest dreams.
Atlantis and Lemuria were the Golden Age.
After these 3 eras, comprising the Golden Age, we have the Tartarian Age, where many of the monuments, many of the great dome structures, the houses, many of the structures that we still see in our land today were built and present. The name of Tartaria comes from the Tartaria region of what is today Russia. Tartaria may simply be a name that appeared on old maps. It could even be a disinformation campaign. We don't know for sure, but we know we see it a lot on older maps and references in older books. So was this the name of this old world-spanning civilization, or was it merely the name of a tribe that wandered the area and had some cultural influence and many names that were thrown throughout modern civilization? It's hard to tell, but the name is useful to reference what this grand civilization may have been, and we believe that the structures that we see represent this civilization, and they're found all over the land, the world, the realm, however you want to refer to it. Most recently, we have the Contemporary Age. It's been the last 170 years, starting potentially around 1850, although there are other theories for when that date is. We have photos and accounts of history from the Contemporary Age, supposedly. We have acquired the remaining buildings from the Tartarian Age by a group of people we call the Inheritors, or those who are in control during the Reset or Cataclysm events. Our current society is based on illusions of achievement. We're told that we achieve so many amazing things, and yet our wars end indecisively. Our great advancements seem to go backwards in a lot of ways. The fact that we have computers and technology don't really seem to improve our lives. Main component of this theory is that we have lost much capability, including longevity, creativity, inspiration, and self-reliance. At the bottom, we have the agreed upon, or at least one of the agreed upon symbols, which is a griffin, and
doesn't make
black
any
and yellow
sense.
seems to come up a lot, but we just don't know. It could simply be something that was thrown into our history, something that we've misinterpreted.
We just don't know.
But it is what we've agreed upon using to represent what this worldwide civilization could have been. Now we come to the transition from the Tartarian in the Contemporary Age, and you see the division going from 4 to 5. There are 3 distinct theories on the timeline on when this transition happened.
They're all ridiculous.
Okay.
The earliest year is 1750, represented by the bottom arrow, and that's associated with the 7 Years' War, occurring from 1756 to 1763, and it's considered the first worldwide conflict. Another theory, represented by the middle arrow, states that this occurred possibly around 1800, and this is backed up by the fact that there were major worldwide changes shortly after 1800, the supposed building of the Erie Canal, a great earthquake that caused the Mississippi to flow backwards. And then the top arrow representing the transition occurring at 1850. This being the time when photography became widely available, the report that genealogy seemed to end around 1850. I can verify that both genealogies on my maternal and paternal side do end around 1850. The only thing I can trace back before then is just the name and a list of names, which really doesn't...
I traced both mine back to the mid-1400s, so the fuck?
That's a lie.
What?
There's no way.
No, yeah.
And then finally, resulting in our modern age, where we have our great square houses that are very poorly constructed and our amazing tall buildings that are primarily glass.
And then he goes on to talk about fucking shit like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming being actually a giant tree, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
Yeah.
Things beyond our imagination. These could be buildings, these could be former life forms, but this theory suspects that they are everywhere. You see Devil's Tower, potentially representing an old tree. I have climbed to the top of Devil's Tower personally, and there are many aspects of it that give the indication that it could have been a very large tree. I don't know for sure, and I'm not going to come to any conclusions.
Tree-like vibe?
It could be an old volcano like they say. It could be something else
It could have
entirely
been.
from what we understand. But we have to keep an open mind, and we have to keep asking those questions and we have to be open.
What's hilarious is
to
this is
different
the one place in the country where the giant flood did happen.
Right.
We're living in a simulation. The theory that
That's his
everything
next
is a
theory.
simulation. The main component of this theory, well, you find many people referring to the Mandela effect, that things aren't as they remember, that it's glitches in reality. Many people remember a yellow sun, even though they say it's white now. You look at the midpoint of day and you see a white sun, even though I remember seeing a yellow sun growing up. Maybe it's just a trick with the memory, or maybe there are parallel realities managing to exist simultaneously as part of the we are living in a simulation.
Then he goes on to talk about it's all just a dream and get solipsistic with it. And then the last theory about how everything is.
The next theory, everything is as it seems. Reality and life are just imperfect. The main component of this theory, well, just look up life on Google, Wiki, look at your news feeds, watch sports, and everything you experience. It's just as they told us. It is possible. Yes, there may be inconsistencies with the story, but those could just be imperfections. The fact that we continue to have indecisive conflicts, that our advancements seem to be stuck in a certain period, or we have periods where we have great technological advancements and then none, that's just the imperfection of life. And those are all things that we have to deal with. Or even the great odds that we somehow survive the mutually assured destruction concept of the Cold War that lasted over 40 years, where we had two very large nuclear-armed powers that could have destroyed each other within the span of 20 minutes. And nevertheless, here we are, 40 years after the movie The Day After, made in 1983. So it's all fascinating when you take it together and you consider all these facts.
I really just want to point out what he said right then, before what he's going to say right now, about how we had the ability to destroy ourselves and we didn't. Just remember that that's what he said that's impossible according to Mr. Lucius here.
I want to refer to the concepts of courage and imagination. Courage is defined as the ability to do something that frightens one. Strength in the face of pain or grief. And imagination, a word that has certainly been derided over the years, the faculty or action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses. Taking these two qualities together, this is how we find the moral fortitude and the intellectual capacity to explore our world, to ask questions. Yes, we can take it exactly as we're told from someone else, some other institution, or some other agency. But I believe that what makes the individual unique is our ability to employ courage and imagination to explore our world and to find our own answers. I welcome different perspectives, and I welcome and appreciate different opinions and views.
That's enough. That's why I'm going to make fun of
That
this
was more
fuckers.
than enough.
Yeah.
It sounded like it's somebody who's trying to make sense of.
Dude,
they're walking through their different theories.
Well,
I
dude,
appreciate that they're at least entertaining different theories.
No,
even
but
if
they're not.
silly.
They're not, though. They're not entertaining different theories. They say that shit. Oh, we're always going to maintain objectivity. And we're going to have the courage and the imagination. Which is like.
Then the alternate theory is this is all a dream or a simulation.
Or fucking Tartaria. Yes, shit is imperfect. It's chaos, dog.
Yeah, it turns
it's all
out
fucked up. I'm sorry.
We have a very imperfect record of history.
Shit's wild, dude. It's crazy out there. I don't know. Like, what do you expect? Like, and also, like, we're living in the age of you made that shit on a fucking computer, bro. You're living in the time of the fastest technological fucking revolution in history. Just because you can't see it with your naked eye, Jesus Christ. And that's what pisses me off about these Tartarian fucks. It's always this like, there's this refusal to believe that they might not understand the world. Right? That they could actually learn something about how wild shit actually is. Mm-hmm. You know? It doesn't make sense to me. It's very of the times, you know? So I didn't actually hear any reason why one should be inclined to think of Tartaria as anything in all of that, right? Sure, like, okay, yeah, ask questions is good, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know why won't they tell us about Tartaria is a useful question to ask. Like, I literally mean that. Where's the hook? What the fuck are you talking about? Right. The hook, the linchpin is the fancy, it's not the word Tartary, it's not the maps, it's not any of that. It's the fancy fucking buildings. The evidence of Grand Tartary lies in the giant fancy fucking buildings these mysterious forebears left behind. Their opponents argue that the architectural sophistication seen in various structures worldwide, including intricate carvings, massive domes, complex layouts, courtyards, points to an advanced understanding of engineering, mathematics, maybe even magic. The scale and complexities of these buildings, they say, could not have been achieved by the historical societies claimed to have built them, suggesting instead that they were the work of the advanced Tartarian civilization. You see the phrase horse and buggies all over the place. Everyone that talks about Tartaria, it's like, they had horse and buggies back then. You expect that they could actually move these stones? Like, Tartarian architecture, as proposed by the theory, is characterized by several key features. So you can go looking around your town and look for some Tartarian shit. It includes grand buildings and monuments that far exceed the scale and complexity they expect of the period, because they think everyone was living in shacks. Ornamentation is another critical aspect where the use of symbols, precise geometry, and detailed carvings, are said to indicate a deeper, possibly lost knowledge of how to make shit look nice. Furthermore, the widespread presence of similar architectural styles and techniques across different continents is cited as evidence of the Tartarians' global reach. It goes like this. It's that, haven't you noticed there's some buildings that look prettier than others? They tell us they were built in the 1800s, but in the 1800s, they didn't even have trucks, so how they moved them big rocks? Horse and buggy? Give me a break. And furthermore, if we could build buildings that I enjoy looking at back then, why don't I enjoy looking at buildings now?
Because, first of all, the 13 bloodlines don't want you to.
Right.
They don't want you to enjoy looking at the buildings.
That's their idea. Yeah, they don't want you because that drives your human will and courage.
Yeah, and it also awakens you to the fact that advanced technology exists. Otherwise, how could these beautiful works of architecture have been created?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for all of these advanced things that are being hidden from us.
And if we,
just like the pyramids,
I don't know, if we could build
those.
Yeah, in the Tartarian believers' minds, like, if we could build fancy then we would still build fancy, unless we can't build fancy now. And in fact, these fancy buildings were left over from a globe-spanning super civilization that went all the way from Moscow to Dallas, giving
It's
free
really
energy,
silly.
giving free energy and blowjobs to all of its strong, strapping white citizens. And it was destroyed, and then they hid it from us and said they built the fancy buildings so that we'd trust them and wouldn't get wise to them letting the demons in through our computers, because obviously we're much dumber now than back then, despite our computers. That's got to be it. There's really no other explanation for why they don't build buildings like I like anymore. There is an undeniable strain of narcissism that runs underneath all of it. If something doesn't immediately make sense within the reality tunnel, then it's not an opportunity to learn more about how shit works. It has to be a fucking lie. I've seen this with people in like real life shit. But let's learn about Dallas.
Dallas? Texas.
Some impressive structures that are depicted in this bird's eye view, and also some impressive infrastructure that's depicted with the railways running into Dallas at this early time frame. Now it's 1892, and it's very impressive how rapidly this became one of the, well, I dare say, what we consider modern super cities of the United States. Well, let's take a look at some other images from around Texas in the 19th century. Now we know, at least we have an idea of what our preconceived notions of what Texas should be, and yet we start off with a very formidable and masonry-built building here. Quite impressive, and we'd think this might be a courthouse. We also have some other elaborate structures that just seem to be standing out in the middle of the desert or the grassland, and it's one of the most appealing things about the Midwest when we do these old world explorations out here, because we find out that there are a lot of these isolated buildings, and yet they're so intricately built. And even this one here in San Angelo, Texas, where we see what appears to be a courthouse structure or a post office or whatever it'd be called in what looks to be an apocalyptic wasteland almost. I don't know, am I watching a classic Mad Max film here, or is this just really a historical photo from the 19th century in Texas? Hard to tell. Various train vehicles, ready to use, and as though they didn't need to worry about the conservation of the resource because they had an abundance of it. Very impressive. I mean, we know that happened when they destroyed many of the trains. Also, looking closely at the infrastructure, it appears to be much older. Now, most of these images we're told are from the 19th century. I can't personally verify it because I wasn't actually standing there with the photographer during that time frame when the picture was taken. So remember that. These pictures provide clues. They're not definitive evidence. But we have a lot of interesting clues, such as here looking at San Antonio. We see some more well-constructed buildings in a very early time frame. Very impressive achievements for Texas Rangers and cowboys and people who are out there settling the frontier with challenges from Native Americans and many other threats that they face in the 19th century. And look at this here, with these elaborate power lines. I mean, is this really what you need just for simple Morse code, or were they quick to get power established in the city? What exactly was the use behind all those lines?
It's a picture of a row with telegraph lines. It's telegraph lines. They had to use one line per fucking line at that point. Oh my god. Dude's about to find out that inequality exists. He's gonna lose his shit.
Man.
Yeah.
I found a whole forum.
Yeah?
Stolenhistory.net. Oh, it's fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's not just fancy architectural design, but similar architectural design across the globe. Like you see buildings in Dallas that you also see in, Europe. I wonder why. Notably we're talking about like domes, columns, and spires. Right? So like, for example, the Rhode Island State House is impressive as fuck. It's like one of the largest freestanding domes in the country.
Why are all these Capitol buildings got domes?
How could cowboys build a dome? Was literally what that dude was just saying. We all know that the people that settled Texas back when it was just the savage Indians, they were just cowboys. He's just like...
Is part of this also like Americans that secretly wish that America had like a more rich and storied and long history?
Yeah, subconsciously, absolutely. Yeah.
This idea that like we've actually been here a really long time, and that it connects to like specifically I keep seeing like Ireland popping up.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's old shit in Ireland.
Yeah.
And like the Tuatha De Danann, like they weave that into like, oh, we're these Tartarians and shit.
Right.
Just complete disregarding their own timelines and shit. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing, and that's what I mean about this shit being so difficult. They're not giving real arguments. Do you know what I mean? It's all just like, whoa, that's weird. Dude literally said like, we all have our preconceived notions about how Texas should look, but it doesn't look like that. Therefore, Tartaria. Fucking insane.
Does this relate to like Scottish tartan at all?
I don't know, dude. I don't even know. I didn't get to the Scots.
Okay.
If the Scots are here, then I'm sure they are. I didn't make it that far. We got to talk about the Star Forts.
Oh, okay. Good. Very good.
What about the Star Forts, I hear you ask? The Star Forts. Willow, if you please.
The star forts seem to have been designed to create microdomes that protected the inhabitants and resonated harmony. This was detailed in Tesla's three-dimensional shell.
Read it how it's written.
Is created by interfering two Fourier expansion three-dimensional scalar hemispherical patterns in space, so they pair couple into a dome-like shell of intense ordinary electromagnetic energy. The air molecules and atoms in the shell are totally ionized and thus highly excited, giving off intense glowing light. Anything physical which hits the shell receives an enormous discharge of electrical energy and is instantly vaporized. It goes pfft, like a bug hitting one of the electrical bug killers now so much in vogue. The elite survived by utilizing them during the resets. The Star Force, okay, they use the domes to, okay. Look at some old depictions of star forts that were surrounded by walls of mud and remained mostly undamaged. Imagine a society that created free energy with the classical arts and whose jobs were musical in nature. On the solfeggio scale, 528 hertz is significant. These sound frequencies we created made plants, humans, and animals grow larger and maintained a temperate climate. All cities located at strategic points on Earth along canals, rivers, seas, lakes, and oceans were star fortresses and had electromagnetic energy extracted from the ether. What the fuck?
So this is a nice couple walking along a path by their home. I don't know if they live there, if they're just on vacation. They're in Portugal. I'm going to tell you about some star forts.
And one that I'm quite excited about, which is a star fort. And we see these scattered around the world. There's not really much documentation on them for some reason. You see a lot of history channels documenting traditional star castles, but nothing much about these star forts. There is information out there saying that the walls of said structures are bastion walls for cannons, but a lot of these forts are dated back to well before the 12th and 13th century, so that theory is pretty much debunked. Did a little bit of research into myself, and the shapes of these forts look closely linked to semantics, semantic shapes, and I think that have maybe something to do, links to energy centres.
They're a lovely couple.
They are. It's this nice British couple. They look to be younger.
I didn't
than
realize
me.
star forts were like a real thing.
Yeah. And then it's just this feller and his girlfriend who looks like she's having a great day exploring the star fort.
I would too. It seems like a lovely thing to go do.
I would walk around a star fort.
Oh yeah.
But he's not just walking around. He's making a Tartaria video.
Oh fuck yeah.
And I'm fucking single. What the fuck is happening?
You know, what a fun excuse to go out. Because then all of a sudden, you have an excuse to look at buildings and be like, that might be one.
I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I need to believe in Tartaria.
Well, I think what's fun about it is that it combines like
No, it's not
an
fun.
appreciation for old architecture.
No, it's not an appreciation.
With World's Fair stuff.
Dude, it's the opposite
with, like,
of appreciation.
Tesla conspiracies.
They don't think Tesla is real.
And,
It's-
like,
it is
alternative
the
history.
opposite of appreciation.
Yeah.
Appreciation is thinking, wow, people did that.
That's my charitable interpretation of like what it could be.
Don't
like combining
be
those
nice to
elements.
these people.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
It's so stupid that they need to be bullied.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Because, man, you're losing your fucking minds. I'm concerned. Anyway, I understand the impulse to be charitable, but, like,
Yeah.
they're going to have kids and shit, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is whack.
I feel
I don't
like
know, man.
what's the demographic that actually believes this? It's probably like QAnon people, right?
I think it skews younger.
Yeah.
I think it's like I'm sure it's QAnon people, but I don't think a lot of millennials. I think probably older and like late to early 20s.
Interesting.
Probably. Yeah. That's what I'm going to just from the hip. That's what I'm going to say at this point. Star forts. Star forts are a type of fortification. Emerged in Europe during the early modern period, characterized by their star-like shape with protruding bastions or points. They were designed to withstand and deliver cannon fire more effectively than older medieval fortresses. If everything's a point, it's harder to hit it with a fucking cannonball, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's these really long points too. Like you're not going to get, there's nowhere where you can get a direct cannonball hit on the star fort. It's brilliant. So these goons point to the complexity and widespread nature of star forts as evidence of Tartarian influence. They argue the geometric precision and architectural sophistication of these forts are beyond what would have been possible at the time of their construction. Proponents suggest these forts served purposes beyond military defense, often speculating about additional mystical functions related to energy harvesting, harnessing, or ancient technology. Star forts are found all over the world, from North America to Asia, Europe, and Africa. Proponents of the Tartaria see this wide distribution as evidence of a globally connected or unified civilization. Yeah, so they see star forts everywhere, and they think it must have been the same people.
Right, it's evidence of this like secret society, whatever.
The reason is because it worked in war, and then it became accepted military technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's a machine that works to protect you from cannonballs and shit. But also spooky pentagram, and it looks like cymatics. But like, no, it's military innovation. What the fuck? But you can see how this is all basically, I don't know how they did that, so I don't believe they did that. That's it. I don't know how they did that, so they couldn't have done that.
Right.
But assuming this is all Tartarian architecture, assuming there was a Tartary, where'd it go? How did it just disappear a couple hundred years ago? Well, if you please.
The Tartary civilization was likely destroyed in the 19th to 20th century through floods, energy weapons, direct energy weapons, and scheduled mass exterminations, and the Earth was suddenly deserted by billions of people. All the architecture and technology of the superior civilization was stolen and passed into the hands of the New World Order, who created the current ignorant civilization.
All the quotes I'm having Willow read are from that old world Tartarians.
So we don't even know how great things were, because it's all been covered up, and they also killed off billions of people.
Yeah. And how did it get covered up? Literally covered up by the mud flood. We got to talk about the mud flood.
It's all underneath us?
Yeah. So, all over the world, right? Especially around these fancy buildings, sometimes you see like half buried windows and shit. Well, so it looks like, there might be like another floor underground. Almost as if there was a flood of mud.
There's whole cities underground.
Mud flood. What caused it? Why did it occur?
Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be exploring one of the quintessential smoking gun pieces of evidence for...
You know what? We didn't even need to hear from him again. Fuck that. We know what a mud flood is. He's not really going to explain it. The whole idea is that there was either a natural or man-made disaster that buried everything in mud, like a lot of mud. Homeboy starts off the video by showing you fake images of hundreds of feet of unexposed buildings below Tartarian buildings. He lets you know they're fake, sort of. He says the pictures that he's showing you are constructed, but no matter, who gives a fuck. That video is mostly just guffawing at the idiot skeptics. One in particular, Brian Dunning, who wrote of the Skeptoid podcast, who wrote an article debunking all of it, losing fucking battle. And the whole video is this dude, Lucius Aurelian, guffawing at fucking all us normies just accepting what we're told while reading this poor fucker's article, giving evidence and reasons why dirt moving happened in cities. It's this type of guffawing.
Now, when you look at these
photographs of the construction of Seattle,
do these photos really paint the picture of constant construction? Do you really think that something like this kind of excavation project would be possible even today if we devoted the resources of the entire state of Washington, or for that matter, the entire West Coast? Or why stop there? The entire United States of America devoted every single excavator, every single worker.
Bro, can move dirt.
Also, what does he know about?
Yeah, what the fuck do you know about moving dirt? Yeah. What does he even know about moving dirt?
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not about to say whether or not it's possible.
Do you think this would be possible to do in this timeline now if this was attempted? And then, for that matter, why don't cities do this now? I mean, if that's all you need to do to increase property value and economics, then just do this kind of work.
But just dig it up again?
Things that you can do and achieve at this time frame. And Brian Dunning doesn't question this. To him, these photos are solid proof that this unfolded exactly as we're told. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense, and the how is irrelevant. You don't ask questions when you're Brian Dunning.
Wow! Followed by wondering what Planet of the Apes was trying to tell us, and then showing pictures of a house that got a bit buried when a hill collapsed, an excavated church basement, and those dope-ass temples that were carved out of the sides of mountains in Egypt. Never mind that these are all entirely different things you're looking at. They all got something in common. Dirt. Mud floods. Literally, it's the idea that you can see it with your own eyes when you walk through an old city and you see some half-buried windows. I wrote, God, this is getting hard to write because there's no actual evidence to look at or disprove. In every instance, it's just, hey, that don't make sense. What the fuck?
You say that now until you find the skeleton of a turtle with wings.
That wouldn't mean Tartaria. That would mean a turtle with fucking wings. Yeah. No, that would mean, I'm like, whoa.
It's the missing link.
That'd be sick, but it wouldn't mean a goddamn thing about Tartaria. But look, shit gets buried sometimes. Sometimes it's when they build the roads on top of roads.
Do they believe in dinosaurs or not?
Depends. I don't know. I'm sure some of them think dinosaurs were Tartarians. Sometimes it's when they build roads on top of roads and on top of roads again. Old stone architecture sinks sometimes. Sometimes shit sinks because they literally didn't have the fucking foundation building technology we do now.
Sometimes the elites have to use their weather manipulating technology to cause massive nature events in order to do a depopulation.
Yeah, but it's few and far between.
Yeah.
No, but they don't even... dude, it's hard to find sources to really explain all of this because it's usually videos and they're looking at pictures. So that's tough.
Yes.
You know, that's most of it.
Going, look at this. How could they do this?
The general thrust is, I shit you not, looking at old drawings of churches and saying, look, there's mud there. See? Mud flood. And if you think I'm being dismissive, just take a fucking listen. This is from Tartaria Britannica. He's looking at a drawing, not even a photo of an old church. Right? It's a...
And another... This one in a bit of bare all over the ground. And, you know, a distinct... The Abbey Church of St. George's. And, again, massive, very nice, big, oversized old world building. You can see the size of this lady here.
Why are these buildings so big?
Debris everywhere.
Look at it. There's mud.
All over the ground.
There's mud all over the ground.
And, you know, a distinct sort of lack of people in these photos as well.
There's a lack of people in these photos as well. It's a drawing. It's literally a drawing. It's with they include one dude for scale.
Again, massive oversized building. Oh look, we've got more birds flying around. You know, can't see much on that, but you know, very massive, huge building.
What?
He doesn't know what's going on. And neither do I, quite frankly.
Me neither, dude. That's a drawing of a doorway.
And another doorway.
Yep.
This one in a bit of better condition, but again, look at all this mud. This is not how you look after places of worship, or buildings that are for worship, or
Leaving all this
for
mud
anything
around.
really. These grand buildings, you keep them clean, you look after them, you don't let mud build up. So this is, and clearly this is not.
What's his
It's
point?
not build up. It's coming from
Mud flood.
somewhere.
He's looking at the drawings of fucking churches. He's saying what he thinks, what he just decides is mud. There's nothing that definitively claims that it is mud, because again, it is a black and white pencil sketch.
Okay.
And he goes, look at all that mud lying around. That's not how you take care of a church. Everyone knows that. Mud flood. What the fuck, man? Yeah, guy. Dirt exists. Fucking dirt exists. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, it's very upsetting.
It is, I know. It's sure. Also, Tartaria had advanced technology.
I mean, I have seen some videos that are Tartaria adjacent that have to do with old postcards of children in cabbages, like Cabbage Patch Kids, but like old postcards of kids in cabbages, and it's like advertised as like a farm. But what it actually is it's thought that these postcards were advertisements for the children in them, and that it was like part of the orphan trade. That
Yes.
Like, so that's then where the idea of Cabbage Patch Kids, the doll, came from.
We're not going to talk too much about the orphan trains.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
But I thought that Cabbage Patch thing was kind of vaguely interesting.
That is, I didn't know about that one. Yeah, no, they think they repopulated the planet with orphan trains full of orphans. Is basically the orphan trains. That actually happened after the Civil War. It's pretty fucked up, but like it wasn't Tartarian. There's also the problem of the world's fairs. See.
Yeah, here's one of the postcards.
Yeah. Tartaria.
One of the there's little signs next to all the babies in the cabbages, and one of them just says, "I am gay."
All right. So there's also the problem of the world's fairs. See? Why were there so many world's fairs all over the world around the turn of the 20th century? And why did they all feature mostly temporary, they say, Tartarian architectural constructions that were all mysteriously torn down? Isn't it weird how there are so many world's fairs and how they tore down this beautiful architecture? Why would they do that? I wouldn't do that. It couldn't be that the world's fairs were actually a psyop to scrub the remaining Tartarian buildings except for the ones they repurposed in plain sight right next to it. Could it? Please read this quote, Willow. I forgot to highlight it.
Note that most of these great exhibitions and amusement parks were opened in less than 1 year at many sites, then were burned by fires, many immediately thereafter, sometimes by design and sometimes by accident. There were over 75 world exhibitions before 1870. Please see Appendix 2 for the list of hundreds of exhibitions up to 1930. As you will read, the exhibitions worldwide were grandiose, extravagant, attended by millions, and brought people and resources from all around the world. This was likely the remnants of the fun-loving Tartarians. Also, the worldwide participation from as far away as Samoa, Alaska, China, South America, Hawaii, etc., means that they would have had to sail all their equipment across the oceans to come to these huge events. How did they communicate with the world's people to get them to come and arrange for their travel, lodging, and meet them at the docks, and carry up and set up incredibly elaborate displays, all using horse and buggy to build out the exhibitions? What the
Yeah.
We just truly cannot fathom that, like, people worked hard and did things.
Yeah. Nails pointed pictures and footage of the supposedly high advanced technology existing in the 1800s. Saw some geezer on a scooter. Also, one of the top posts shows a really ingenious, like, personal fan developed by the East India Company before electricity. But how'd they do that? Probably springs. I'm gonna guess springs and gears. For a fan before electricity, it's gonna be springs and gears. Dude, I don't even want to play another video from that guy again. I'm done. We don't need to, right?
No.
And some of this early tech is like people playing with radios and stuff, wires, things that didn't work, things that worked inefficiently, things that worked but had no use, some things that were made better and now we use them all the time. I do like this bit though from the old world Tartarians.
History tells us that the first power stations were first established in Cairo, Egypt in 876, according to Wikipedia. It is the largest and oldest in Egypt in its original form. All Tartaria power stations, small and large, had pipe organs to harmonize and heal the population through sound waves, what is now known as cymatics. The churches and cathedrals we see throughout the world all share similar design patterns that were designed with sacred acoustic geometry to maximize vibration, tone, and resonance to heal and help download higher consciousnesses. After the Great Purge of the Tartarians, the religious order, spearheaded by the Romanovs, reconstituted these amazing structures into Presbyterian, Catholic, Anglican, Mormon, synagogue, mosque, temples, etc.
Read it how it's written.
Presbyterian, Catholic, Anglican, Mormon, synagogue, mosque, temples. Tartaria.
And printed below is the entire section of Old World Tartarians called The Magnificent Opus Healing Pipe Organs, within Chapter 7, Love and Healing Centers. And I copied and pasted this exactly how it is printed.
This is the real reason why there are no more pizza and pipes places.
I'll get the...
Once upon a time, when the temples of free energy architecture were used to rise man, the organs were used as a harmony bomb. These songs were tuned and played at sacred healing tone of 528 megahertz. It was not allowed to change the frequency of the Earth for example, 440 megahertz, which divided by 12 equals 36.666. This frequency disharmonizes humanity, leaving beings agitated, angry, and sick, and that was not allowed. So at the correct frequency, there were regenerating concert halls where people could recharge themselves with pleasant music while buildings collected the energy of the ether. Music note emoji, sparkle emoji, mosque emoji, sparkle emoji, music note emoji.
And so on for a chain of... It was actually like wingdings in the book, and it copied it into like these emoji looking things.
Perfect.
It was better with the black and white wingdings, though, I gotta say. Some like Office 95 shit. Anyway, that all begs the question. Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Yes.
Vengeful Tartarian rat god come again?
Yes.
This researcher says yes.
It's all too fitting.
And there's so much more to Tartaria. We've barely scratched the surface. I wanted to talk about if the Eiffel Tower is so cool, why is there only one? And the orphan trains, which ties to the adrenochrome grift. It all ties into everything. So that's how these things work, and this is the latest one.
The children of the mud flood, the original Cabbage Patch Babies.
It's fucking insane, and I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it so much. And I told myself before I started writing this, I try not to get angry and sarcastic. Here's the thing. Remember I said I had proof? I got a couple. So the whole argument hinges on how we can't even build these things now, let alone then. And yeah, I know the goalposts will change with every argument because these Tartarian fucks are playing Calvin ball, but whatever. So the reason there was waves of Greek and Roman inspired architecture beginning in the 1700s was because of the discoveries of the cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii. These cities were preserved essentially completely intact as they'd been covered in enormous amounts of ash from Vesuvius, which sort of just like cooked the fuck out of the people there, but didn't damage the stone buildings. So preserved and buried, right?
I found a website of somebody that's into all of this stuff, and they have an article about just the title of it.
Yeah.
Speaks for itself. Teenagers, an American Invention. That's right. You heard me.
Yeah.
Invented.
Okay, like I said,
We invented teenagers.
There's a lot more to Tartaria.
I'm willing to hear about.
There's so much more. Well,
Elvis played a role.
Of course he did. It's everything. You can keep going. I'm talking about architecture. Vesuvius. People at the time said, oh, fuck, that's sick. And they took a bunch of inspiration from it, resulting in a few different waves of really ornate, expensive architecture. We stopped doing it because of the philosophy of modernism and capitalism, which emphasized function over form, speed over beauty, and reproducibility over uniqueness. We can still do it. And that's my proof. Proof 1, Turkmenistan. We looked at Turkmenistan in one of our bonus episodes. It's fucking ridiculous. Their capital city is like this dictator's fucking like Neverland. The capital city is a newly built 21st century fucking white marble monstrosity. It's just white marble and gold. It's fucking crazy. So that's one. Second, Nashville. The Schermerhorn Symphony Center was opened in 2006. Ground was broken, construction begun in 2003, right?
Okay.
Do you see how it looks? I put it in the script there.
Yep.
That's a Tartarian building if I've ever seen one in my fucking life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Those columns.
Yeah, it's got columns, got the ornate shit. It's huge. Dude, it's got towers. That's Tartarian. That's Tartarian. Oh, shit. That Lucius Aurelian Gunnar has a video on Nashville. I wonder how he rationalizes this.
But what interests me is what's in the immediate foreground, where we see some beautiful statues and a little light post. And this is supposedly taken at the end of the Civil War, which is why you have a tent perched out front there.
All right.
I don't know who's going to be pitching a tent right in front of the state capitol, and
It's just shitty sarcasm. I gotta search through the chapter. Oh, good. On this video, he lists all the buildings, the individual buildings in Nashville that he talks about, so we don't have to like listen to him anymore and shit. I can just look for where he talks about the Schermerhorn concert house. Wait a minute. He doesn't fucking mention it at all in his video on Nashville.
How about
now? Why is that? Why wouldn't you mention the huge symphony center that looks just like all the other Tartarian bullshit, except for the fact that it easily destabilizes the entire argument you've built your YouTube channel and premium members only channel on? And isn't that just what you accuse the elites of kind of doing shit? So, okay, so that guy's a cunt and a grifter, but that doesn't mean they all are, right? I mean, look, there's declassified CIA documents like we heard that young lady talk about at the beginning of this fucking mess, right? I haven't mentioned them yet. They prove the existence of Tartaria.
Yeah.
It said that the KGB was trying to rewrite the history of Tartaria. I've seen the documents. It's right here, actually.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it.
Would you please read it?
It's just an excerpt. It's just one paragraph. Or let us take the matter of history, which, along with religion, language, and literature, constitute the core of a people's cultural heritage. Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on the 9th of August, 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria, to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of a nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with the Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank. Was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to great Russian aggressions and to hide the fact of the real course of Tartar-Russian relations. And this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area within the USSR, historians, on orders of the Communist Party, have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in a good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed, so that the present and future generations of Muslims are forever denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past.
The fact that document is actually a CIA document makes me just once again realize this whole fucking thing, that all of existence is just one joke. It's just a huge fucking joke.
Big old joke.
How is that actually a document about erasing the history of Tartary? Because that's proof, right? Yeah. Well, no. So this was about Soviet attempts to soft genocide the Tartar people. A group of Turks living in the USSR, you know, in the same way the Soviets and many others have done to ethnic minorities forever. Like that was the KGB's sort of MO. Like there was a group of Turks that were referred to as the Tartar people, right? Because they're living in the place. And the Soviets had their, you know, the Soviets who were in charge of these discrete areas. Yeah, and they just rewrote the shit out of the history because that's what the fucking Soviets did. Apparently Vladimir Putin was releasing the real history of Tartaria, though, which brings us to, it's the fucking Russians, yet again. Well, I'm not going to say that definitively. I'm going to say that I suspect that Russian intelligence is capitalizing on the Tartaria myth. You see, this is all at its core a reaction to modernity, a longing, a yearning even, to return to a better fake time. Considering when the Tartaria shit popped off, 2018, 2019, as well as the first edits to the Wikipedia coming from accounts with Russian names, considering it has all the hallmarks of a Russian mind melter, you know. But there is more. See, the Tartarian theory has a couple of intellectual ancestors that, while not directly mentioning Tartaria, do have much in common. The first is a book, or it's a book series, 7 books. God damn, those Russians can write a lot. Called New Chronology by this dude named Anatoly Fomenko. This series is extremely popular in Russia. There's like surveys that like even up to now, upwards to 30% of Russians who responded at least say they like or believe the idea of new chronology. Fomenko, a statistician, essentially argues that time or chronology has been artificially expanded based on either ignorance or malice. See, Fomenko came up with a system based around the idea that thinking that history repeats or even rhymes is for fucking chumps, right? Basically, he applied a statistical model to chronology, history, all of fucking history, apparently, and found that events rhymed in ways that should be statistically impossible. So essentially, when you've got a Roman emperor, an English king, and like, I don't know, a German king who all had similar lives and fought similar battles, yeah, that's the same guy. Same dude is new chronology, essentially.
Okay.
So this was proposed. These books were written in the 1980s. The core claims of new chronology are the contraction of history by about 1,000 years. It's about 1,000 years shorter. You know, Jesus actually lived in the year like 1000 AD, right? And that's based on his like statistical model of like these duplications, you know, being recorded by different people and shit. He also like applies empirical data analysis, statistical methods, and astronomical phenomena to critique and reconstruct the timeline of historical events. He claims that by analyzing the position of the stars and eclipses reported in ancient texts, many dates and events don't line up with their traditionally assigned periods. That's basically it. The statistics thing and the astronomy thing.
Okay.
Yeah, he argues that Jesus Christ was born in 1053 AD and crucified in 1086 AD, and that the Trojan War, the founding of Rome, and other ancient events occurred during all those events occurred during the Middle Ages. The criticism is that he's just using bad fucking science all over the place. He's not an astronomer. He's cherry picking, you know, he's doing the Tartarian thing where he's looking at like drawings of like ancient astronomical drawings and just like deciding what he wants to see in them and saying, no, it wasn't like that. It was actually like this, like ignoring the fact that like people might not be accurate in their drawings or that like dates might not be correct and shit. Right? And like the Tartarian shit is the only place I've ever seen make reference to Anatoly Fomenko. And he's referenced like all the time in Old War Tartarians and like by all of these content creators and all this shit. It's the only place I see his ass get brought up, and it gets brought up quite a lot, despite him not writing about Tartaria. What's really interesting is that there's no person they point to who broke the story open on Tartaria. Like, you know what I mean? But like new chronology has been endorsed and not endorsed, yeah, by like Russian hardliners and shit. Russian nationalism. This is a quote from Sergei Glazyev from Spirituality is an Economic Category, September 15th, 2020. Willow, if you please.
Fomenko's new chronology provides a good logical basis for restoring the historical memory of the Russian world. It fully fits both the scientific approach to the formation of a consolidating ideology and the construction of the image of the future of Russia in the integral world economic order.
Yeah, it fulfills... It's part of that whole restoring the symbolic glory of Russia thing. Because it places Russia at the center of a lot of this shit. Just like Tartaria does by virtue of it being Russia, right? Was like Tartary, most of Siberia and shit. And like it's a Russo-centric idea. And I don't think that Tartaria was invented as a Russian psyop.
Oh, did you know that he makes art?
Of course, everyone does. I don't care.
No, it's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why didn't he do more of that?
It's really good, actually.
Huh.
Check this shit out.
That's Anatoly Fomenko? That's fucking sick. You know what? I'll give him props for that. That's dope as hell.
Talented artist.
Do more of that. Holy shit. Yeah, no, but I'm pretty damn convinced that like Russian actors or actors with the same interests of Russia have pushed it as a way to shred a shared sense of history in, you know, the English-speaking world. Now, yeah, I think we can talk about the King of Cups now.
Excellent.
Willow, fetch me my soapbox.
I'm dragging it over. All right, here you go.
It's falling apart at this point. It's like modernist architecture ain't the greatest. Modernism ain't the greatest. But you know what modernist architecture is actually? It's cheap. It's fast. It's structurally sound. And beyond all, it's functional. It serves a purpose. And it's fast as all fuck. And it's cheap. Bro, you're angry about industrial society not valuing art anymore. That's literally what you're mad about. It's not that as a society we can't build that shit anymore. It's that it doesn't help the bottom fucking line, son. What the fuck good does it do for the shareholders to hire some loser artist who doesn't want to get a real job to design some stupid bullshit that we're just going to fill with cubicles of plastic fucking flowers anyway? Get back to work, dipshit. Time is money. And maybe we could all do something about that. Like, maybe all of us could do something about that, because I'm pissed about that too.
Right.
I'm really pissed about that.
Why is everything so ugly?
But nah, maybe we could get together and do something. But nah, you chose the coward's way out. That gives you a fucking cloud to yell at and takes away any of that super duper scary thing called agency and responsibility.
It's the Rockefellers' fault.
Right. Yeah, agency and responsibility. You know, the stuff you're always posting about our fallen modern world needing more of. Nah, fuck agency and responsibility. Pour one out for Grand Tartary and their lost dick-sucking machines. Like, we live in an age of satellite imagery and no one gives a fuck about space travel. So we're missing a really, really important thing. One that, to the Europeans of the Middle Ages, old Grand Tartary did represent. And, like, I'm talking about, like, in real life here. It was the great undiscovered country. The land of possibility. Where anything could happen. The land of fucking milk and honey. We don't have that anymore. We know what the Earth looks like. And thus we have to separate our undiscovered country not by geography, but by time.
Or by shape.
What?
You know, flat Earth.
Yeah.
Can't even agree on what shape the Earth is. I mean, like, there's a widely accepted answer, but we still can't really get it together.
We can agree.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. Yet we're, as a species, so fucking broken and traumatized that we don't have the courage to take up the mantle of fucking agency and responsibility to place our undiscovered country in the future as something to strive for. As a culture, we put the undiscovered country in the past, not as something to strive for, but as something to mourn.
Yes.
An excuse for why we're unhappy.
Lame.
And a reason to abdicate our sworn and solemn responsibility to the future, not only to ourselves, but to our fucking species. Who's responsible for Tartaria? Fucking we are. It's the logical endpoint of all this shit. And until the people that give a shit start telling better stories about the future, the rest of everyone is going to keep slouching towards Tartaria or whatever the fuck comes next and makes a teeny tiny bit of sense. It's going to get all of them. It's... The King of Cups is the fiery aspect of water. The action-oriented, impulse-oriented aspect of feeling, intuition, all that shit. Snap judgments, quickly, like a fish swimming real fast, darting which way and
right.
No, not a lot of sustain. A lot of bringing forth, not a lot of sustain. Superficial. It's the dreamer, the artist, right? The romantic, and the shadow side of that is making up a bullshit undiscovered country in the past that you can mourn as an excuse to not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just like ignoring facts, just pure feeling. No, there's no swords. There's no air element in the King of Cups. There's no information. There's no like logical processing.
Right.
It's all feeling and action. And which is great sometimes, as long as it's oriented in the right way. And Tartaria is just fucking insane. And I just can't believe it's a thing. I had such a hard time writing this, dude. It's so fucking difficult. It's going to be such a bitch to edit.
Oh my God, I know.
But Jesus, that's great Tartaria for you.
Holy shit.
I had to talk about it. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
I feel like my understanding is vaguely increased.
Has it a little bit, maybe?
A little bit. And I don't know if I'm happy for that or not,
yeah.
But it did increase.
Yeah. Well, if you enjoyed that, listener, you can enjoy more of our stuff. Sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/thenonsensebazaar. $5 a month. You will get access to our bonus show, The Corkboard Bazaar, access to our Discord server, our hanging out, do all sorts of fun stuff in there. It's a good time. It's fantastic conversations and really interesting people, and it's fucking sick. And get all that for just $5 a month at patreon.com/thenonsensebazaar. Please leave a rating and review. Tell your friends. Actually, like, legitimately, I think social media is like going the way of the dodo. We gotta get back to like recommending shit.
Yes.
Or maybe I'm just hoping it's going the way of old Tartaria.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my relationship with social media is going the way of old Tartaria.
Oh, mine too.
But you can still follow us because it's not dead yet. Yeah, take care of yourselves.
Take care of each other.
Just take care of each other. Friends don't let friends go to Tartaria. All right. Peace.
Peace.